Hey guys, welcome to another episode. Today we are starting on the teardown and rebuild of our cylinder head. What we're going to be doing is we're going to take it all apart, get everything nice and clean, and then we're going to do a quick reassembly. We're not going to do a super detailed reassembly process. It's pretty straightforward and it's very similar to most other cylinder heads that you're going to come across, different videos, things like that. So we'll go through it, you'll be able to see it, but it's not going to be super detailed. But today we've got ours here on the bench. Right here. We have not gone through it or anything like that. So today we're going to do that. We're going to go through that. We're going to take a look at what the valves look like, make sure they're all nice and straight, see how dirty they were, because it'll tell us a good history, at least about the head. But the head and the engine are supposed to be original together. So we'll see if that's really true. We've also got our engine on the stand over here. You guys might be able to just see that, but we've got the engine on the stand. We just got that stand today, so we couldn't wait but to get that thing on there. So we've got that soaking in some PV Blaster, getting it nice and loose. That way we can start working on it and not have to really worry about those stuck bolts. But for today's video, today's purposes, we're going to be jumping into this head on a teardown and seeing what we're working with. So let's hit the bench and let's get to work. So we're on the bench with our cylinder head. Like I said, we have not taken these covers off. We don't know what any of this really looks like minus the bottom. But I'm really anxious to get underneath here and see what our camshafts look like, because that's really going to tell us a lot of information, at least about this head. But the first thing we can do is flip up the head here and take a look at the valves underneath. Oh, there's our oil cap. Take a look at this here. And they are super carboned up. Hopefully you guys can see that and this light isn't washing you out. Grab another one here. So hopefully you can see that, but these are super carboned up. This car has been running rich for a long time. But I don't see anything crazy scarring. I don't see any crazy marks or anything like that that would make me worry that there's been some sort of catastrophic failure. So at least we have that. So we'll go back down here on the bench. And we're going to remove this bracket here real quick. These are 13 millimeters. 1, 2. Okay. Gonna get those out, set those to the side. And now we're gonna get onto our valve covers. Now this is a 3/8 Allen wrench, and these should not be torqued super hard. These are magnesium. So if you, oh, that's just maybe a little too loose. Yeah, they need a little bit more than that. Barely any effort whatsoever. Let me get these off. So the first one we're going to look at here is our intake side. This is closest to us. This is where our carburetor sits, but in our build, it's going to be the fuel injection is going to come in from this side. So cross your fingers, take your bets, what you think it's going to be. First thing I can tell you right now is that these look okay. But what you can see is that the washer, it's like a felt washer, rubber kind of wash that's supposed to sit on there, is completely gone. None of them have it. So hopefully that's the only problem we run into. Alright, so that is off. And we can see our gasket actually looks like it's never really been ran. It's still super pliable. It's, yeah, this has got to be a new gasket, so somebody must have been trying to work on this before us, but typical to old cars, that's not uncommon. Looking in here at our cams, I don't see any crazy pits. I don't see any of the lobes wiped out. That one looks okay. So let's see if we can go 2 for 2 here. Yeah, and again, these rubber washers, felt washers, whatever you want to call them, they're missing off of that side too. Again, the gasket looks relatively new. A little heavy on this side, so that's interesting. At first it looked like there was a big old scratch on this one, but it's just the a hair or something I got in there. Again, I don't see any of the lobes wiped out. They all look good. But let me get you guys in here. Alright, so let's take a look here. We've got all the lobes are, like I said, in good shape from what we can see. Nice and proud. No low spots, no crazy scoring or anything like that. and I don't see anything that, just some cleaning that's needed really, but it looks good, not too bad. So the next thing I'm going to want to do, I think, is remove the front wheels here. These should be 17s. Nope, not quite. They're 19s. Yeah, 19 millimeter. We're going to remove those front wheels just like this. So a really easy way to identify your exhaust and your intake wheels is look at the let me turn it this way. Look at the dots on the inside. So the 2 dot, which is the first one we took off, is our exhaust side. So it's got the dots, dots, dots. All right, that's 3. And our intake only has the 1. Okay, so that's a really easy way to remember that. Those are out of our way. So the next thing we can do, we can either get these off the back, or we can just turn the whole top off as one, which I am more inclined to do. So let's make it a quick time lapse here and get these covers, these boxes, the cam boxes, off. Alright, so the next thing we're going to want to do is remove these little add-ons here. This is one of our temperature gauge, our temperature sensor right here. This is one of 2. These are both temperature sensors. I'm using a 23, but it's a little loose. That's probably the closest fit I could find. Oh, that one's on there. We skip that one. We'll go here. This one is a 19. You know what? I think we're going to cheat. We're going to put it on the impact. So those are a little dirty. This one's all bent. I mean, these definitely, this one's like falling apart on the inside. So these definitely need to be replaced. You see the oxidized powdery stuff on there. So we're here, and these are in really rough shape. So we're gonna trash these. Go to something better. All right. So next thing we're gonna want to do is get a flathead. We're gonna remove our worm gear clamp here. This is part of our heater system. This would go to your heater core in the car, so you can have heat, really. So, we're just going to cut this off, because we're definitely going to replace all hoses. You know, we're not going to cheap out on something like that. Yeah, it's a good thing we're cutting that off. This definitely needs to be cleaned up. And get all this corrosion on there, because we do not want that in our cooling system. So now that all the accessories are off, you can flip it here and take a better look at those valves. Yeah, they're definitely, we can see they're all fully seated, which is good. A good way to see if your valves are sitting is actually get spark plugs. Put spark plugs in each of the holes and fill this up with fluid, with an oil, Marvel Mist oil, something like that, and see if it holds the oil. And if it holds the oil, then you have good contact on your valve faces, and they're holding all of that in. Now if you come back 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and it's lower or gone completely, then you've definitely got a valve seating issue. In our situation, we happen to not have spark plugs on us to run these, and I don't want to go run out and get them out of my other car. So we're going to end up doing a lapping job on this. We're going to lap these valves as part of our teardown process and rebuild process. So I'm not too worried how they look at this very second, how well they seat, because we're going to end up taking these out and cleaning these up anyway, especially with, I mean, that's pretty really black and really dirty in there. So we're going to get this nice and clean. That way we have a good fresh surface to work with. So what we're going to do is, now that we're at this point, is we're going to take our seat clamp. This is our valve spring clamp. You put this on the bottom, you press this on top, it collapses the springs, it removes the two keepers. They'll become exposed, and you take a magnet like this or a little small one, and you're able to get in here and grab those keepers. And I always put them in a magnetic tray, that way they don't get lost. So this is actually a really straightforward, easy process. It's nothing really exciting as far as taking these off. So I'm going to get through these real quick, and then we can see how those valve guides and the seals around look. So let's get started. Okay, so you saw me struggle a little bit there on this very first one. It's all about finding the combination between the bottom and the top and having enough pressure to actually get it down. I even had to spray it with some lubricant because sometimes these keepers actually get stuck on there, and so it makes it really challenging to really get that spring down. But once they're loose, you shouldn't have to fight it as much as I did. That's why I started to lubricate right from the beginning. I started experiencing that. You even saw me tap them to actually break them loose a little bit. So those keepers, the little two halves, and they've got grooves in them, and that's where they sit on top of the valve. So we've got our cap on top, our outer spring, our inner spring, and then we can actually push the valve out the bottom. Now one thing I'm going to look for, hopefully you guys will be able to see this, is when I go to move, you can see I can move the valve up and down by hand. Now the key is how much room is there side to side. Now if you can move that valve and you can feel some wiggle in there, that means your valve guides are too big and they're worn out. But on this example, I'm moving it every which way and it's not moving, but the valve moves nice and freely. So I'm going to pull the valve out. Okay, so this is our intake now for number 1 cylinder. And we can see that nice silver on there, that reflective silver on the bottom there. That means that our valve is actually seating relatively well. This car was definitely running rich for sure. And we look on the stem and we don't see excessive scoring, etching, anything like that. And we could tell just by how smoothly it was moving up and down in the guide how well that was working out for us. So yeah, if I clean this off this edge here, you can see how nice, get y'all up here, there you go. See how nice that seat is. It's nice and centered. It's not all at the bottom, it's not all at the top. Nice and centered, nice silver mating surface. Now these are in good condition, so we're gonna take a look, and if they don't need the lap, maybe we won't do it. But it's one of those things where right here, we've got the valve out, we've done all the work. We should probably lap the valves despite how good they look, just to ensure that they've got a nice seat on there. The other thing you're going to look for is on the ends, there's looks like a rubber with a little spring around it, valve guide seal. That way oil doesn't go past the valves into the cylinder and start burning oil. So that's another thing to look for. We're gonna look and see if those are scored, torn, breaking down, crumbling, anything like that, because this gets very hot. So rubber doesn't like heat. So we're gonna rip through the rest of these. I'm not gonna record it. It's really simple, straightforward process, one after the other. We're gonna get through all these valves. We'll line them up and we'll take a look at them. So we've got all of our valves out. We've got a piece of cardboard and our intakes all out, and same with our exhausts. These are all out as I clean up. These are all nice and numbered also. All of our keepers, we've got them in our metal tray. And what are these, you ask? Well, those are those valve guide seals I was telling you about. You see little springs and all little pieces of rubber that are now rock hard. So I've been taking them out, and you can see that they're just crumbling to pieces in here. So I've been taking my angle tipped needle nose on the base, and I just rock it back and forth, and it'll eventually come up. You can hear it cracking and collapse like that. Nice and easy. Take your time. Don't rush it. Not a whole lot of force, and it will come out. I've gotten them all out except for this one, and it's really hard to do one-handed with a camera in your hand. So that one comes off, and it ends up looking like one of these, just really gummed up. And in our nice new kit, we've got some new ones right here. You can see that rubber with a nice new metal base on them, nice new spring, so I'm not worried about these. So I'm going to get that one off when I actually have two hands. And then we're going to take a look on the flip side and start cleaning up. So we've got that last valve guide seal out, and there's one last thing we've got to be careful of. Is there are little shims washers, what do you want to call them. There's one with a ridge on it that the valve guide seal actually sits on, and then there's a super thin shim underneath that, and there's one per valve all the way around. So you want to make sure not to lose those, that way they stay together. So we're going to flip this up, trying to keep those shims in there so I don't have to go chase them down. And now we can see a little bit more of our combustion chamber, and yeah, it's definitely dirty. So we're definitely going to need to get this all cleaned up, and so we're going to spend the next day and a half in between. Let stuff soak, let stuff clean, really get it in there. We've got our nice parts washer back here, so we'll be able to get this nice and clean. It's so awesome to see that we're in here, all the valves were nice and tight in the guides, nothing was wobbling, all the springs are in nice good shape, and all the keepers are in one piece. They're not broken or anything like that, no chips in them. That's also a good thing there. So I'm glad we came in here. I'm glad we took a look at these valve guide seals, because those are absolute garbage. Like I was saying, the rubber just doesn't hold up to the heat, and we're here. So I'm glad it's part of our kit. So now the fun part of scrubbing and getting all this gunk in and out of all these crevices, and that's just going to take some time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this all nice and cleaned off camera. Scrubbing is not really good content, I want to say. So we're going to get this all nice and clean. When it's all clean, I'll bring you guys back, and we can start reassembly.